Hey guys, it's Peter, and I'm back. Of course I'm back. I'm not going anywhere. Boost! I'm YouTube famous now. Available in 2011. The album, Dad AF. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Y'all remember that song back in the day? Oh my God, I used to love that song. So anyway, a little salt and pepper for you. All right, today we're gonna talk about James Charles and a comment that he made in a video. I already talked about that, but he has now come out with a video apology on his Instagram. Go over and check it out before it's gone, or you can watch my video because I'm going to include it in here. And I'm sure every drama channel will probably include the clip in there, so it'll be out there forever, and James doesn't have to save it because he knows that. Can we just talk about, do you watch RuPaul's Drag Race? Oh my God, can we talk about that lip sync for your life last night? The hands down best lip sync for your life that I have ever seen on every season of RuPaul's Drag Race. I have seen every episode. That was fantastic last night. So anyway, I don't want to ruin it for anybody who was in the last two, but go over there and check it out. It was incredible. So today we're going to talk about that. I also want to talk about a little bit of information that he talked about in this video. I think that one of the problems with James is that even though that James is very, very young, this is what's really interesting to me before I get into this video, okay? Is that, you know, whenever James comes out and he makes a mistake or he says something that he shouldn't have said, or, you know, that he apologizes for or whatever, there's always kind of two trains of thought. There's always like people kind of excuse his behavior. Oh, that's okay, that's okay. And I know that many of them are fans. But then a lot of people also say that he's too young and he wouldn't know any better, right? But then the other group is like, no, he should have known better and all this kind of stuff, right? Well, what's interesting to me, and I asked in a video recently, what is the age that we stop using like they're too young as an excuse? Because I really wanted to know what you guys thought. And I want to say this again, I'm making this video and I would love for you guys to have a conversation in the comment section below. I have really, really appreciated you guys having just a really classy conversation in the comment sections. Please do not put any kind of nasty comments down there. If I see them, I will remove them. I'm just going to tell you that. So anyway, but I would like to have a kind of conversation about this as well, an ongoing conversation about this age piece. A lot of people say that at 18, 19 years old, these younger YouTubers, they know better. They have like this huge power, this huge following, whatever, they should know better. A lot of people feel that it depends on your circumstances, you know, so that maybe somebody like James who has, you know, I guess it's now almost like 20 million followers on YouTube and this huge social media platform probably wouldn't be compared to someone of his same age, let's say, I don't know, still living at home, working a part-time job, going to community college or something like that, if that makes sense. I don't know about that. And then other people feel that 25 is the age that you stop using for that excuse because that's scientifically apparently been proven. When somebody's brain stops growing developmentally. That being said, one of the problems with that is that James is young, and we know that he's young, right? But often on video, he speaks as if he knows a lot, you know? Do you remember those days, if you're my age, when you thought you knew everything, right? And so sometimes he kind of like talks out of his ass, so to speak, when I'm not really sure he really knows what he's talking about, and then it kind of gets him into trouble. Okay, so I don't think, you know, it's that he thinks he knows everything. I think that about certain things he thinks he does know a lot about that, when maybe he's incorrect. And that's kind of what I saw in this video that he did, which was called Doing My Crush's Makeup, as well as in his apology video. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more because I think it's a discussion that we need to have. So in the video called Doing My Crush's Makeup, his crush asked him something like, you know, do you consider yourself 100% gay, blah, 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 whatever. And he said in there, and I talked about this in my last video about him, that no, because he had found himself attracted to women and trans men. And a lot of people had issues with this. A lot, okay? It was a huge deal. And so anyway, if you go underneath his Twitter at the time, after this video, he made an apology. And the apology, here, I'll put it up right here, said, in attempt to explain the very complex concept of sexuality in my video today, I unintentionally implied that my trans brothers and sisters aren't valid. This is not what I was trying to say. You are valid in your identity. I apologize and should have chosen my words wiser. And then other people underneath here say a lot of things. Somebody said, I get it, as a gay guy, finding out you're into a trans guy for the first time, thinking about his downstairs and being like, yeah, I want that too, can be kind of a shock. He's a guy, and we have to re-examine what that means, and it takes time for all the language to be perfect. And he did a heart emoji. And then someone down here says the opposite, and says, you said that being attracted to trans men makes you less gay. This tweet does not cover what you said even slightly. You fully implied that trans men are not real men. You can spout your valid bullshit all you want, but that is not why people are mad at you. And then then she continued and said, you said to 16 million people that being attracted to trans men makes you less gay. You implied to all those people that trans men aren't real men, and you expect this tweet to cover it. Really shows up how uneducated you are and how little you care. And then somebody said, he simply said his words wrong. He knows that it was not what he meant to say, and if he's gone out of his way to apologize, take it, which I think is interesting, right? It's like, how do you know, how do we know what's going on in James's head, right? Like, we don't. And then he said word for word that he's not fully gay because he's attracted to trans men. That point blank period implies trans men aren't real men and has done nothing to rectify it other than spouting the usual you're valid BS. Absolutely not good enough. And then somebody said, I'm a trans man who has a vagina. I mean, I get what he was trying to get at. He's talking more about genital preference. Words are dumb and confusing, and people need to chill. And so, you know, there's a lot of people that are, you know, trans in the thread that are having their opinions. There's opposing opinions. There's a lot of cis people in there that are having opposing opinions. It goes on and on and on, you guys. So I think that James felt it necessary to come out with more of a video or a personal response. So here, I'm going to roll it for you. It's kind of a lengthy clip, but I want you guys to see it.
Hi guys, James Charles here. I wanted to make an Instagram story today addressing something head-on that I've been getting a lot of questions and comments about recently, and that is my second to last video, which is doing my crush's makeup. Now, in this story, I hope to address the issue and not run away from it, provide a little bit more context into what I was trying to say, so hopefully we can all learn together, but most importantly, issue a direct apology to my trans brothers and sisters that may have been affected and hurt by what I said. In my video with my friend, I was asked a question about guys that I've hooked up with in the past, and the answer led us into a very long conversation about the fluidity of sexuality. Now, sexuality is obviously a very, very complex, vast, and complicated subject, and at times it can be very, very confusing for people as well. It's something that we as a community and myself personally are learning more and more about every single day, but it is simply a subject that should not be compressed or summarized into a 10-minute video clip. But I really wanted to answer my friend's question, who is outside of the LGBTQ+ community, and attempt to educate him on a subject that he was actually curious about. But through doing that, unfortunately, I misspoke and hurt a lot of people along the way, and that's what I would like to address. In the video, I'm a visual learner, and I wanted to try to give some context to sexual fluidity with the Kinsey scale, which, if you don't know, is a scale from 0 to 6, gay to straight, and the theory is that everyone lies somewhere on the scale. Now, of course, I can only speak for myself personally, and I put myself at a 5.5, saying that I have thought some women were beautiful in the past, and also because I have been with a trans man. Now, it doesn't even matter what I was trying to say here, because regardless of whatever my intentions were, that came across as me saying I was not fully gay because I have been with a trans man. And that is absolutely, first of all, not true. Like, that doesn't make me not fully gay. But that stereotype and implication is really, really dangerous, and I am very, very sorry. If you are a trans man, you are a man. If you are a trans girl, you are a woman. Like, that's literally just how it is. You are valid in your identity, and I know that me spewing that at the camera doesn't fix anything, but hopefully it does show that I did not do this with malicious intent. The whole point of my channel is to make people feel comfortable and make people okay with expressing themselves, and that includes feeling valid in your identity no matter what you are. And I can only imagine how awful it feels to be invalidated by people outside of the community, let alone me, somebody within the LGBTQ+ community that has a large platform, and I'm really, really embarrassed by it. I feel absolutely awful, and I just want my trans brothers and sisters to know that I am sorry. I love all of you so, so, so much, and this has been a really cool learning experience for me to be educated on this topic and to learn a whole lot more than what I did before, and I promise that I'll be choosing my words a whole lot wiser. What I was trying to talk about was genital preference, and this is a touchy subject, but genitals do play an important role in a lot of sexual relationships. Now, for me, I have been with one trans guy in the past, and he was very, very open with me about not having bottom surgery. And as a gay man, I do have a penis, and I have always been into that as well. But with this particular guy, he embodied everything that a man was. He was a man, and I was very, very into him, and whatever he had down below did not affect that. And at first, that was a little bit confusing to me, but I was open to the idea, and I really, really liked him. And that was what I was trying to get at by talking about the fluidity of sexuality, is that sometimes in life, you can find somebody that you really, really, truly do love, and love can sometimes trump on top other things such as appearance, weight, or genitals, or sexual identity. And that was the point of the overall conversation, but unfortunately I majorly missed the mark and it got derailed a lot. And that is why I'm making this video today, to apologize, to provide a little bit more further context, and hopefully be able to provide a little bit more information for anybody who may have thought the same thing that I did. This was an honest mistake, but it doesn't matter because the damage has already been done, and I hope to move forward and use my platform for only good in the future. I'm sorry again, and hopefully this answered a lot of questions that I was getting about the subject. Thank you for listening.
Okay, so it was a nice apology. It didn't feel super staged to me. It didn't feel like a PR move. It felt like he just sat down, like all of his apologies, no makeup on, no hair done. I will say this, I think it's interesting, you know, is like, James has no problem showing up on camera with his makeup done and his hair done, and I'm sure he doesn't show up to any kind of event for anything without being fully done. So why wouldn't he show up for an apology the same way, unless he wanted it to show like, hey sisters, this is the real me, right? Which that's always kind of interesting to me. Anyway, so I watched the video. I actually watched the apology twice. I really kind of wanted to see what I had to think about it. And, you know, honestly, it's not mine to accept or not accept. And I think that's what a lot of people are saying, you know? It's not really my place to accept your apology or not accept your apology. It's really up to your trans brothers and sisters, as you refer to them, to accept your apology or not to accept your apology. I don't really care at this point how it affects me, because it doesn't. What I care about is that James learns from this, okay? And one of the things that I thought was interesting in there was that when he was talking about the Kinsey scale. Now, the Kinsey scale has been something that's been around, I mean, for years and years and years, okay? And, I mean, that was something that I learned, like, in psychology in high school, and I graduated in 1990, right? So it's kind of an outdated thing, but I wanted to go online because James says in there that he puts himself at a 5.5. And so I wanted to see where I land on the spectrum. Now, if you don't know, and I'm sure it's hard to believe, but I'm a golden star. Now, see, a golden star means that I've never had sex with a woman. I know, it's so hard to believe, but I haven't, okay? But anyway, so I was like, I'm going to take this, Kinsey test because I want to see where I land on the Kinsey scale. Like, I don't want to guess because he said I put myself at 5.5. No, I'm not going to put myself on any kind of scale. I don't know, okay? Now, I will tell you, I wasn't too surprised with the results, but I didn't know. I could have taken the test and found out that I was like a 1. I was completely straight. I didn't even know it. I don't know. You know what I mean? So anyway, I took the test, not once, but I took it twice on 2 different websites. They're basically, it's the exact same test. And I will show you that my results show up here. I'll show them to you. That I am, here, let me put up, exclusively homosexual. For a second there, I forgot my status, and I thought I wouldn't be able to flip a fan. Anyway, so yeah, it validated what I already knew about the world. But it's kind of an outdated thing. I will say what's interesting about these tests, right, is that it goes in there, and I think that this is where the point that the Kinsey test came out, we've learned a lot about sexuality through the years, okay? And this is about sexuality, which we're going to get to in just a second, because I want to clarify the differences between the things that James is talking about, that I'm not even sure that James fully understands what he's talking about, which then, to me, becomes scary when somebody refers to him talking to 16 million people, and we're educating 16 million people. It was easy enough for me to Google search this because I wanted to get the right information to you guys, even though I knew the differences. I was like, I want to make sure that I'm getting the right information out, so I think that I don't know. And I also don't know how I feel, the fact that James put it in a video that was monetized and that is still up and all that kind of stuff, to then go on Instagram. I mean, it's like, it's always baffling to me that we can make a video and we can screw up in a video, but then we have to come over to Instagram and make an apology. And I understand, and he thinks everybody's going to see it over there, but maybe they are. You know, there's a lot of people that watch YouTube videos that aren't on Instagram and aren't on Twitter, and they're never going to see that apology, and they're never going to know, right? So why not put it in a video? I guess I'm just confused a little bit about that. But anyway, so I wanted to go in here because he says in there, you know, he's talking about the difference between the biological genitalia and sexuality. Well, okay, it's a little different than that. And what the difference is that we're talking about is we're talking about sex, we're talking about gender, and we're talking about sexuality. And they are three specifically very, very different things. And, you know, like, I think this is something where the Kinsey test doesn't, the Kinsey scale doesn't really apply to this today, because back when the Kinsey scale came out, and yes, the Kinsey Institute, which I believe, if it's not still, at one point was at Indiana University where I live, the Kinsey Institute, when it, you know, like, came up, and when Kinsey came out with the scale and things like that, you know, this was long before we were having conversations about gender. This was long before we were having conversations about gender and sexuality, sex and gender, and how they all play out off of each other, you know? We weren't even having conversations back in those days. If you're as old as me, you know. We were not having conversations publicly about gender fluidity, sexual fluidity, sexuality fluidity. We weren't talking about binary things. We weren't talking about any of those kinds of things, okay? At that point, when I came out, and I came out in 1990, which is like 30, 40 years, or 30 years after the Kinsey scale came out, you know, we were talking about the LGBT community, and I can tell you that that was about it. Like, now it's LGBTQIA plus community, and there's this whole stream of, you know, where people identify in there. So we become a more accepting society, we become a more educated society, we become a more understanding society. And one of the things that I absolutely loved when I did my video the other day were the vast amount of people from vast amount of backgrounds and belief systems, okay, that were all in my comment section being very compassionate about having the conversation about this. Thank you. That, more than anything, I think, not my video, but just the overall discussion that we're having today in society shows how far we've come. Not just on acceptance, not just on tolerance, which I can tell you is not one of my favorite words, but just on understanding and being more compassionate and letting people live the life that they choose to live. So I want to go in here and I want to read this article quickly to you. Well, I won't read the whole article. But it goes in here and it says the difference between sex, sexuality, and gender. And there are many, hundreds of different articles about this. But this is very, very short. So I just want to read these parts to you. When people refer to someone's sex, sometimes called biological or physical sex, they're talking about that person's identity based on their physical characteristics. For example, having a penis, vagina, beard or breasts, etc., genes and hormones. Gender. Society often expects people to look and behave a certain way depending on their biological sex. Men are usually expected to act and look masculine and women feminine. However, we all express masculinity and femininity in different ways, and we all relate to elements of masculinity or femininity differently. When society's expectations about gender don't fit, gender is about your sense of who you are as a guy, girl, or something else, as opposed to what your physical characteristics, genes, and hormones indicate. We usually expect males to feel like guys and females to feel like girls, but sometimes a male will feel like a girl and vice versa. This is so not educated of an article, isn't it? But anyway, you'll get the idea. Some people identify as both male and female, and others don't identify as either, and that's okay too. Sexuality. Your sexuality is about who you're attracted to sexually and romantically, and that is one of the things that was interesting on the Kinsey test that I took, was that there was like 2 questions on there. One was about like, who are you more emotionally bonded with, and the other one was like, who do you hang out more socially with, which, you know, doesn't really have much to what we think about as sexuality, have much to do with that. People who are attracted to others of a different sex are known as heterosexual or straight. People who are attracted to others of the same sex are known as homosexual, gay, or lesbian. But sexuality is more complicated than just being gay or straight. Some people are bisexual and like both men and women. Others see sexual attraction and gender as fluid and find labels like straight, gay, or bi too rigid and fixed. These people refer to self-identity as queer, and it goes on and on and on and talks about pansexuality and asexuality and all that kind of stuff. Which I think today, if we're going to have discussions about that, we need to be really open to understanding that. When I don't understand something today, I go and I ask somebody that has experienced that and that's They have life experience about that. I go to them and I ask them, what words do you want me to use? You know, what words are appropriate to you? Things like that, you know? And explain to me your life experience, because I don't know. And I think, like, it's very similar to me back in the day, having people come to me and saying, like, one of the questions I always hated back in the day is, like, who's the man and who's the wife in your relationship? I'm like, seriously? Like, and that's what what we're talking about, that is gender roles, okay? That's not sexuality, that's gender roles. The assumption that in a gay male relationship, there's somebody that has to be the male and somebody that has to be the female, right? That's society's perception of how these things work, which we know today, I mean, there's still people that believe that way today, but 10, 15 years ago, that wasn't the case. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that definitely wasn't the case. I used to get that question all the time, you know? Or the whole assumption of sexual roles, I think, in a relationship, because especially with, like, gay men, I think people are very, very interested in that because they think that dictates what that person's role is like in the relationship often. So we're not just talking about biological sex. We're not just talking about gender. We're not just talking about sexuality. We're talking about all three. And that's what James was really talking about in his video without knowing that. So I do think that one of the things that came out of this that's positive, okay, is that we can now have a conversation about all of this, an educated conversation about this. James is somebody in the LGBT community that people are going to look up to. There are many, many, many people in the LGBT community that are his age or around his, maybe older, I don't even know, that look up to him. Okay? And I think that he is open to learning and open to educating himself. At least I hope that he is, you know? That he will continue to be a force within the community. I believe that he will do that. I believe that over time we will see James grow a lot. I know a lot of people are tired of him. They think he's arrogant. They think this. They think that. But within the LGBT community, he does have, you know, a lot of control and power, being that he has all of these people that look up to him. So that being said, I do think that he's got to think about what kind of example he's putting out there. And it'll be interesting to see, you know, what happens down the road. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think that the apology was enough? Do you think it's not really ours to decide if it doesn't affect us personally? Do you think, what do you think? Put it in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.